prayer requests? All right, see no hands up, Sister Ann.
Pray for Brother CJ. He's still having some health issues. So just remember him and the family as they're taking care of him as well.
All right, go ahead and take the evening offering then. For the Parsonage Fund and the Ron.
Father, Lord, thank you for allowing us to be here tonight. Lord, that we come here in the right spirit already. If we have not, Lord, I pray that we'll take this moment to draw nigh to you, to repent of sin. Pray, Lord, as we sing to you tonight, truly to you, it's not about us. It's not about how we feel. It's not about how songs make us feel. We're directed towards you. We're here to bring you honor and glory. I pray, Lord, to help us to remember that every moment of every day is an opportunity. We have to choose how we're going to live each day. We have to choose every moment of each day. If you will be first, second, third, fourth. It's easy for us to fall into the flesh. It's easy for us to fall into things that easily drive us away from you. Pray, Lord, we'll be mindful of these things. We'll be cognizant of these things. We'll realize that we are in a spiritual battle. And spiritual battle is 24/7, 365. We must armor up, put on the whole armor of God, or we will fail. Help us and strengthen us for you. In His name, amen.
As far as announcements, we have song night tonight, Wednesday night will be business meeting, youth meeting Thursday night, and ladies meeting the 11th. And Brother Jacob will be here the 10th to fill in. Does anybody know of anything else as far as announcements? Is that Hannah? Go ahead.
Kind of. I believe the youth scheduled an activity on the 6th.
That's right. We did. And we didn't get that figured out yet. So we were going to do some kind of laser tag, bowling, throw things at each other. I don't know. Some kind of activity.
I don't think those go well together.
So maybe not all of the above at once, but it was something of that nature. And probably have all forgotten about it. So they get that figured out. Okay. Anything else? All right. If not, we'll go ahead and continue song night.
We'll turn to 198. We'll take some requests. 198.
Jesus is my peace and peace.
like this. And then I'll know you have one, and that's going to go. Sister Betty.
196 in green.
196 on the green. $196 in the green.
Everything to God in prayer. Number 12 in the blue.
12 in the blue. Number 12. Turn to number 190, and then we'll have to take over session. 190, and then we'll try to do it. 190.
Thank you.
Turn to 341 in the red. 341 in the red.
Spirit, holy mind, the simple soul of mine.
book and keep down, Lord. I just pray that each and every one of us will listen to the message this evening and take it and apply it to our lives and go home and study it for ourselves as well, Lord, and just see what you have for us. And just please be with each one of us to be able to be a light in this world for you and be able to show you to those who need you desperately, Lord, and just please forgive my sins, Lord, and I draw closer to you. Just in your name.
Let's open our Bibles, 1 Corinthians chapter 11. Corinthians 11 and go down to verse 18. It says, "For first of all, when you come together in the church, I hear that there be divisions among you, and I partly believe it. For there must also be heresies among you, that they which are approved may be made manifest among you." And we see as it goes on, when you come together, therefore, into one place, this is not to eat the Lord's Supper. And we're familiar that this chapter then goes on. There's instruction on the partaking of the supper. That's not what we're going to be looking at, but we see the purpose then of those words in verses 18 and 19, at least in that context, at least at that time. But really, there's not a better time to have division. There's not a better time to have schism in the body. The church at Corinth is just one that the Lord chose to write extensively to, that really is not any different than any of the Lord's churches. And even today, we obviously have the two books to the Corinth church, and we're to take the same instruction personally in the Lord's work today. A New Testament church today, we ought to read this, we ought to think that it's written to us, we ought to take it that way. And there were, as we are aware, divisions in the church at Corinth. And he said in 19 also, there must be also heresies among you. That's false teaching, right? That's not just individuals kind of being a little bit rebellious or doing their, having their own will, but some of them were taking it upon themselves, or they actually had formed or were using their positions to teach and kind of influence others in that way. Back in chapter 1, as we just looked at this the other night, we'll just take a quick trip back to chapter 1, verse 10 and 11 there. It says, "Now I beseech you, brethren, by the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, that ye all speak the same thing, and that there be no divisions among you, but that ye be perfectly joined together in the same mind and in the same judgment. For it hath been declared unto me of you, my brethren, by them which are of the house of Chloe, there are contentions among you." And as it goes on, we know some of the contentions, they were based on this kind of, individual worship, lifting up of people, maybe, giving more praise and more, credibility or more power to someone than what it really should be. There, as we talked about in chapter 3 the other night, that they're, everyone is just simply a servant of the Lord to work in the same, work, the same house, the same building, and it's not about individuals. There's no, there should be no, name placed on anything or anybody taking or giving that kind of attention. But we know that was going on in Corinth, among other things, and so it was causing division. And so, just for these, for this time tonight, I just want us to think about, the local church being in unity. And he talks here to the church at Corinth in verse 10 that they would speak the same thing and that there be no divisions, perfectly joined together. And, as we realize what a local church is, it's a body made up of individuals. Everybody can still have their own idea, their own, obviously their own mind. It's not meant to be some kind of robotic, mindless, cult or clan or something that's just following the words of a man. but there is to be a unity. Now, where does that come from? We find that people have the ability, human beings have the ability to be unified. And we see that in places in life. Probably some of us have, over the years, you've worked at different companies, different businesses, and sometimes there's more of a cohesive, personality to, maybe it's the whole place, maybe it's just a team within that. And sometimes it's very disjointed. It's very much, everyone kind of has their own thing, their own ideas, their own, they're looking for their own, place of control and things like that. But you see this in the business world, and you see it in other places. People have the ability to be one with one another, but what has to happen in every case? You have to get self out of the way, right? It has to be not about you. It has to be about the group, or about the goal, or the main purpose of being a group, or being some kind of body or some kind of entity. It needs to be about that, which means we lose ourselves to see that that central purpose take more precedent, have more power. And that's what needed to happen, obviously, in Corinth, and we see some of the reason why. But it is possible. But now, we need to be cautious. Let's go back to Genesis chapter 11. You need to be cautious because what we don't want to do is ever begin to have a sense of unity just among one another and not with God, and not involve God in it. Or really, it's not like meant to sound like we bring Him along, but what we see here in Genesis 11, we'll read through this, but we see a unity, a oneness, but without God involved, without His will being considered. Chapter 11, verse 1 says, "And the whole earth was of one language and of one speech. And it came to pass, as they journeyed from the east, that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. And they said one to another, Go to, let us make brick, and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone, and slime had they for mortar. And they said, Go to, let us build us a city and a tower, whose top may reach unto heaven, and let us make us a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth. And the Lord came down to see the city and the tower, which the children of men builded. And the Lord said, Behold, the people is one, and they have all one language, and this they begin to do, and now nothing will be restrained from them, which they have imagined to do. Go to, let us go down, and there confound their language, that they may not understand one another's speech. So the Lord scattered them abroad from thence upon the face of all the earth, and they left off to build the city. Therefore is the name of it called Babel, because the Lord did there confound the language of all the earth, and from thence did the Lord scatter them abroad upon the face of all the earth." So now, we don't have a lot of information behind the scenes to fill in some of the gaps in these first chapters of Genesis. In some cases, a lot of time is covered. In some cases, we only have a small number of people referred to, but there were many more, apparently, it would seem. And we don't know, what all went into this. One thing, and maybe it's surmising a little bit, but there in verse 4, they said, let's build a city and a tower, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth. Now maybe they, were just referencing that they saw from within themselves that if they didn't work together, that they would end up being disjointed. But I also wonder, I'm just surmising a little bit, but I wonder if they knew that they weren't supposed to do this. If God had delivered this through the patriarchs, if the Lord had made it clear what their purposes were to be, and that obviously we know by the results, God didn't want them building a tower into heaven. He wasn't going to let it happen. He stopped it and then did scatter them, but they said ahead of time, let's do this so that we don't get scattered. So I don't know, that's not really here or there. It doesn't necessarily matter, but it just makes you wonder. It would seem then that this, even if not, that this was still an effort that didn't involve God's will. It wasn't pursuing spiritual matters. It wasn't putting the Lord first. And the Lord came down to see the city in verse 5. And then in verse 6, the Lord said, Behold, all the people is one. and they have all one language, and this they begin to do, and now nothing will be restrained from them, which they have imagined to do. And so people, human beings, just in general, with a singular purpose, can do incredible things, right? And I don't know, how this thing that happened, again, there's a lot of unknowns, but I do think of, I don't know, the thing that's popping in my head right now is the Golden Gate Bridge. I mean, there's other projects, there's other buildings and feats of mankind that are just incredible to think about the kind of engineering and effort and sacrifice. To many people, something like that, it's a job. But there are times where these things are able to be produced, maybe with very little waste or in very short time, or very little injury or something, where a project like that is able to be completed. And you see, people, they all got on board. They all saw the need to sacrifice. They all wanted to see it get done. They worked together to for that common purpose. And you can see it here. The Lord said, nothing will be restrained from them, which they have imagined to do. And again, this was being done without the help of God. Because he came and confounded them, right? And scattered them, it says in verse 8, abroad from thence upon the face of all the earth. The name of the place called Babel, which means confusion. So where there was a lack of confusion, there was ability, right? Now, we look within the New Testament church, the Lord calls a local church to be unified. And sometimes it's like, we wait for someone to give us something to be unified over. Sometimes a local church, when there's a singular event coming up or a singular project, it's easier to get on board. It's easier to, but really, when there's a lack of a singular project, we should still be just as unified. Where's the vision? Where's the unity come from? From our walk with the Lord as individuals. And the Lord will make sure that the people in that local body are on the same page. He will do it behind the scenes in ways that we don't have to orchestrate, and we don't have to talk about, we don't have to necessarily have it. I mean, it's fine when there's a common goal, when there's a certain event or some kind of outreach or a major decision or something like that a church is in unity. But the Lord is trying to achieve unity in a church body, regardless of whether the people say, we should be in unity. The Lord wants that. He's already trying to work. If we just as individuals will submit ourselves to Him, for lack of a better term, it will just happen, right? It will fall into place. Go back to 1 Corinthians chapter 12. We also find here, 1 Corinthians 12, and down in, really, starting in verse 12 and down through the whole passage, the eye and the ear and everyone having their part and every member is necessary. Verse 25 says that there should be no schism in the body, but that the members should have the same care one for another. And as I said earlier, even in a workplace, in some kind of secular group or team or whatever, what tends to happen when if you have individuals in that group that some are wanting more control, some are wanting to kind of get their own way. What is that? It's looking out for self. It's pride. It's a selfishness. And it ends up hindering or being a schism, a division to the unity that the Lord desires to have. And we know that we're creatures the Lord created that have the ability to be in unity and to glorify the Lord. So it's not that's not the problem. It's that we need to get self out of the way. So look at Proverbs 13. Proverbs 13. And verse 10 says, "Only by pride cometh contention, but with the well-advised is wisdom." Contention. Where does it come from? Pride. Pride is such an enemy and so easy. It's so much of man's resistance to God or His will. If you trace it back in some way or another, it's coming from pride. It's coming from a place of supposed self-sufficiency and a view of oneself that is not accurate and not to be trusted. But that's what creates this disjointedness. And now over the desire to build a city and a tower, they got rid of it. And you could see it sometimes and occasionally, like maybe more so in a non-professional sports team, but sometimes you see it there for a time. There's a common goal, and then someone wants more money, and someone won't go to training because they're a spoiled brat, and they think they deserve more money, or they need to be a team captain because they know more, and you start getting all this pulled one way or the other, and they're not working together anymore. But when they kind of realize that they want to win games, they want to maybe be the champions or whatever, and so they kind of quit worrying about all that, and everybody comes to play. Everybody comes ready to put it on the court, right? Ready to go out there and just give their all for the team, for the success for everyone else instead of for oneself. So the same problem can happen in a church when we have the idea, when we have aspirations of things that would go our way, or because we think we should have more say. What's going to happen? That church is not going to have the unity the Lord desires. This contention or division or schism comes from pride, comes from an inaccurate view of ourselves. Look at Proverbs 17. Proverbs 17, verse 19 says, "He loveth transgression that loveth strife, and he that exalteth his gate seeketh destruction. He that hath a froward heart findeth no good, and he that hath a perverse tongue falleth into mischief." Where does that strife, that contention come from? Pride. He that loveth transgression. And it's a church is made up of sinners. So there's always going to be the tendency to transgression. There's always going to be that sin nature. But that's what we talked about this morning, the regular maintenance of the preaching, the delivering of God's Word, for us to be open to being instructed and being taught, so that flesh is kept at bay with the Lord's help. Not because we can't do it on our own, but with the Lord's help as we submit ourselves to Him, as multiple, and hopefully every member of a local church does that, then what ends up happening? That church as a body has a unity, a oneness that is unstoppable. We think of, let's look at 1 John chapter 4, and we'll go ahead and close. But think of, again, the reference to the Tower of Babel, what was able to be accomplished by a group of mankind working together, but as they didn't do it with the Lord, as they did not submit to His will, think of what more could be done by those who would submit to the will of God. 1 John chapter 4, verse 4 says, "Ye are of God, little children, and have overcome them, because greater is He that is in you than he that is in the world." For the Lord's honor and glory, right? For the Lord's purposes, a local church to be the lighthouse that the Lord wants it to be. For the local church to represent Him, to reach lost souls, to grow, whether that's in number or whether that's in knowledge and devotion and personal growth as individuals. Lots of different ways that you could measure what is success to the Lord for a local church, but it's going to require a unified effort. And yes, a church can, it's made up of people, and so if there's someone like a pastor, or if there's some project, someone that says, hey, let's all get on board with this. These would be our goals. Let's work together. Let's make this happen. And if that person is kind of charismatic about it, there's a human nature, there's a human component that could follow that, and that could produce unity. But that's not necessarily what the Lord wants. What He wants, though, is unity, but it's spiritually based unity.
Amen.
That comes from the individual pieces doing their part. What is it? Ephesians chapter 5, I think, the effectual working the measure of every part. Ephesians 4, verse 16. From whom the whole body, fitly joined together and compacted by that which every joint supplieth, according to the effectual working in the measure of every part, maketh increase of the body unto the edifying of itself in love. See, that's the kind of unity the Lord has provided and that He desires. And again, that's why in Corinth there were some problems. That wasn't happening. There was too much attention, too much effort being placed on, well, so-and-so's, Apollos, Paul, Peter, different individuals baptized or led you to the Lord, or other areas of sin that we know were going on in the church of Corinth that later in the book it shows. But if we get ourselves out of the way, right, that seems to be the key. And if we give ourselves to the Lord, then He's able to use that multiple effort to produce unity, strength in the body as a whole. Let's go ahead and stand. Any other words tonight? Sister Meyer?
If you could continue to please remember David and my friend Robert, we appreciate it.
All right, no others? We'll go ahead and have word of prayer and dismiss. And as we do that,